Okay, our next speaker is Rob McCargow, and we're in for quite a treat. Rob is the AI program leader at PwC and manages the AI ecosystem there. He collaborates with partners across academia, government, technology, vendors, and startups in order to drive innovation and develop new services. He's an evangelist for responsible technology and promotes awareness of the growing ethical agenda relating to AI. He's an advisory board member for IEEE, and he's part of the all-party parliamentary group on AI and a past TEDx speaker. However, he is here with us today to speak on making the strategic case for AI.
Hello, welcome to AI Live, the future of enterprise. My name's Rob McCargow. I'm the AI program leader for PwC. We've seen remarkable breakthroughs in the field of artificial intelligence over the last 2 years. We've seen AI being applied to the game sector, to defeat Go and to defeat chess. We've seen the application of AI to poker in the last 12 months. But the question for business is, how is this technology being applied today, and what can we expect in the next year to come? What I'll be looking at today are some of the big opportunities AI presents for business and enterprise, but also some of the risks, and how do we evolve this technology in a way that drives innovation and also ensures we avoid unintended consequences, but also looks at how we impact society for the better as well. I'll be sharing with you 8 of our PwC AI predictions for 2018, and this will be available to viewers as well after the event. First of all, what we anticipate really is AI will start to impact employers before it starts to impact employment, and some more detail on that shortly. We'll also see AI start to come down to earth and get to work in a far more practical sense and start solving important business problems. We will also see AI start to answer some of the big questions about data and start providing substantial return on investment to the amount of data that businesses are starting to collect today. We'll also start seeing a new breed of workforce coming through. Functional specialists and not just technologists will start to decide the AI talent race. From a cybersecurity perspective, we'll start seeing cyber attacks becoming more powerful through the augmentation potential of artificial intelligence. But on the other hand, we'll start to see cyber defense being augmented as well to the same degree of scale. One of the issues we also start to see as AI starts to impact regulated businesses in more and more so, is the requirement for trust and transparency and explainability of the algorithms. So the opening of AI's black box will start to become a priority for businesses and regulators and governments. We'll also see an enormous race globally for AI dominance, and how this unfolds economically will drive profound impact across the globe. And finally, the responsibility for AI being evolved in a way that is harnessed for positive outcomes will not just be solely upon the technology companies alone. All parts of business and other stakeholders will be accountable for ensuring the responsible AI revolution takes hold. First of all, to set the scene, the research we've conducted suggests that the impact of artificial intelligence by 2030 could lead to a $15.7 trillion impact on GDP within a fairly short time frame. However, the way this unfolds will not be entirely level across the globe. It's clear to us that China will become the big winners of this race with an additional 26% GDP growth by 2030. North America similarly will see a substantial GDP growth opportunity of around 14.5% in the years to come. And similarly across Europe, around about 10 to 12% can be expected. But clearly this will have impact across the globe in different ways. There are parts of the world that won't quite see the same growth as well. So there are concerns about the equitable spread and of the benefits of this technology. Now, why is this going to happen? There's really 2 key factors that come through in our research. First of all, as AI is starting to augment the workforce to processes within business, we'll start seeing productivity substantially grow as well. On the other side of the impact, we'll start seeing AI beginning to hyper-personalize products and services, making them far more attractive consumers and therefore driving substantial consumption growth as well. So the 2 factors of productivity and consumption contribution could lead to this significant impact globally of $15.7 trillion. In the UK, just to give some context, what that equates to is about 10% GDP growth over the next 12 years, equating to £232 billion. It's a significant prize for us to aspire to attain. It's clear that the application of AI will impact across all industry sectors. Financial services has certainly been at the front of the leading the pace on this charge, and healthcare and automotive will clearly stand to benefit, but this will impact across all industry verticals. In healthcare, we're seeing tremendous breakthroughs in the application of AI to diagnose diseases far more accurately and quicker than the human comparator, but also across the ability to diagnose new diseases, often 5 times faster than humans as well. Also within automotive, we're starting to see breakthroughs in autonomous fleets for ride sharing. A number of organizations are starting to trial this autonomous vehicles revolution. In financial services, as aforementioned, financial planning, fraud detection and anti-money laundering applications are starting to mature very, very quickly. In retail, anticipating consumer demand, we're seeing retailers beginning to use a number of different techniques to predict customers' orders and significantly in advance of humans, and inventory and delivery management, as well as fleet optimization and route planning is also a significant breakthrough as well. Across transport, we're seeing announcements on a regular basis of autonomous trucking and delivery. The UK government have announced that we're looking at 2021 to start trialling this on UK roads. And in technology, media and telecommunications, the option to deliver customized content creation for marketing, for films, for music, as well as personalized marketing and advertising is a really, really promising area as well. In fact, even within the telecoms arena, there's organizations applying this to the recruitment use cases of video interviewing. In manufacturing, supply chain and production optimization is a huge opportunity, as well as on-demand production. And in the energy field, again, there's enormous opportunities around the predictive infrastructure maintenance and a more efficient grid operation and storage. I touched upon the impact on jobs and the future of work over the course of the introduction as well. One of the pieces of research we launched last year suggested that by the early 2030s, AI could significantly impact jobs of the future, to the extent that we see that up to 30% of UK jobs could become highly susceptible to automation by AI. And this equates to around 10 million UK workers as it stands. Also, this won't unfold exactly equally across the globe. So in the US, this could be as high as 38% and as low as 21% in Japan. Whatever the number though, it's clear that there's opportunities to also utilize this enormous growth we will create to create new opportunities, new roles we haven't yet discovered, but also to drive significant demand for labour. How we plan for this, though, is critical, because within our research, it also points to a number of interesting variables. First of all, the way this unfolds by industry sector could be substantial. The sectors most likely to be more highly susceptible, such as manufacturing, such as automotive and driving roles, clearly are more susceptible than roles in the health and social care field. Also, how this unfolds across age and gender is also, I guess, both interesting, but gives us cause for need to properly prepare for the future. So, for example, as males dominate the sectors that are more susceptible, this could have an adverse impact on men compared to women. Educational attainment is clearly of concern. People with degrees onwards are less susceptible than people up to GCSE level educational attainment. So how do us as industry leaders, how do we within the broader stakeholder group in government and civil society work together to plan for this future? We can't precisely forecast. We have to see significant focus upon the education system for young children entering, to prepare them for jobs that it's hard to forecast what they'll be. So it's not just about preparing them to become something, but giving them that resilience and adaptability to change course, to appreciate that they may well have a number of different careers within one lifestyle. Also, looking at the people hitting mid-career now, in the next 5, 10, 12 years as this automation unfolds, How are we preparing people to change course at that phase in life? How are we creating a culture of lifelong learning that gives people the opportunity to change course and to remain economically able to contribute into their later years as well? It's a huge opportunity, but it's a huge risk. And this is why I was pleased to see over the last year that governments have started to wake up to this and start looking at this from a policy lens. How do we take the benefits this technology will create in business, but starts to share this equitably in a way that protects people, to enhance their lives and amplify the benefits that the technology often promises. So we have 6 key messages for business leaders. Really, it's important that this can't be looked at as a long-term situation. The impact of this technology is starting to happen and it's starting to accelerate. So it's important that business leaders start to act now and not leave this to a later juncture. The future isn't also a fixed destination. It's important that business leaders can plan for a dynamic rather than a static future. You'll need to recognize multiple and evolving scenarios. Make no regrets moves that work with most scenarios. But you'll also need to make some bets too. It's a significant requirement upon businesses to have a different innovation culture and different mindset. Businesses should also be prepared to make a bigger leap and not be constrained by their current starting point. The need to have a more radical change than just a small step from where you are today could be absolutely critical to ensure that businesses are harnessing disruption in an effective way. With the impact of this technology starting to gain significant presence in the press and in wider civil society discourse, it's also vital that businesses own the automation debate. This technology will affect every level of business and its people and workforce, as well as the customers and stakeholders that it services. It's far too an important issue to leave solely to the preserve of both the IT and the HR department. A depth of understanding and keen insight into the changing technology landscape is a must across all professional categories here. There's also been a lot of discussion around how do we protect jobs, and it's our opinion that it's more important to protect people. Organisations can't protect jobs, which are made redundant by technology, but they do have a duty of care and a responsibility to their people. So protect people, not jobs, nurture agility, adaptability, and reskilling. And finally, it's critical that businesses can build a clear narrative here. Our research suggests that 1/3 of workers are anxious about the future of their jobs due to automation driven by technology such as AI. And anxiety is a real confidence killer, and the willingness to innovate can be hampered and stymied by this anxiety. How your employees feel affects the business today, so start a mature conversation about the future, be clear, be candid, and demonstrate how you're taking this development forward. It's increasingly becoming clear that businesses are now seeing a substantial increase in the amount of data hitting their enterprise. Many companies haven't seen the payoff from their big data investments. There was a disconnect. Business and tech executives thought they could do a lot more with their data, but the learning curve was steep. Tools were immature, and they faced considerable organizational challenges. Now, some are rethinking their data strategy as the landscape matures and AI itself becomes more real and practical. They're starting to ask the right questions, such as, how can we make our processes more efficient? And what do you need to do to automate data extraction? At the same time, organizations are now able to take advantage of new tools and technical advancements, such as easier methods for mining less structured data, including natural language processing for text indexing and classification, enterprise application suites that incorporate more AI, emerging data lake as a service platforms, public clouds that can take advantage of different types of data, automated machine learning, and data management. One of the areas that we've been applying AI to within PwC is looking across our workforce of 237,000 staff worldwide and looking at really how do we align them with purposeful work that suits their skills and their aspirations and leads to the right outcomes for our clients. We've taught machine learning how to understand the various rules that govern how we select and deploy staff into different client work, but also looks at this incredibly complicated array of different data sets that determines both where the staff are, how well engaged they are, how well utilized they are, and therefore comes up with the ideal prediction and the ideal selection for our human resource managers to start putting into effect. We're very confident that this leads to, apart from the business benefits, clearly improvements in our retention and attrition rates, aligning people with work that suits their interests in life as well as their work, but also looks at our carbon footprint and leads to some of those unusual situations we can remove. Why are we flying this individual member of staff from this part of the country here? It's clearly not good for their productivity and work satisfaction, and it's not good for our carbon footprint. So there's many, many opportunities, and part of the art form here is how are you selecting the right use case? Have you got the greatest data set to work with? Now, I touched upon in the introduction this situation with AI. As it starts to move out of the business consumer landscape, whether it might be recommending movies on certain movie sites, whether it's about helping you to navigate the streets of your city with your smartphone, we start moving to this arena where we start moving into more regulated industries. And AI hasn't always gone to plan. Just to give a couple of examples here, we probably are all familiar with the famous example of the chatbot being exposed to the public for 24 hours. And within that time frame, the public decided to train it to become a racist and a misogynist. And clearly, that had to be taken down very quickly, causing fairly critical commercial damage, but also reputational damage. Also, we saw an example in the US with regards to a beauty bot being created to judge female beauty at a contest. And unfortunately, the data curation wasn't subject to sufficient approach to removing bias from the data sets, and the bot decided it preferred lighter skin compared to darker skin. And we've also started seeing the application of this to insurance use cases. So in the case here of young drivers, giving permission to open up their feed to determine the level of risk and their proclivities in life that will determine if they should be subject to a lower car insurance premium. Huge requirements now for businesses to take this very seriously in a responsible way. And this is something that we're taking on within PwC to start building trust into the technology. Because as I said, as we start moving this through into really hard business problems, business executives are going to start seeing a number of issues that will give them cause for concern. So what is holding AI back in the enterprise? Another research we undertook last year, our CEO Pulse survey, suggests that there's a number of factors that are holding back AI from being applied at industrial scale within the enterprise. First of all, 3/4 of executives believe that increased vulnerability and disruption to business is a serious cause for concern. A similar proportion also looked at the issue around the potential for the amplification of bias through harnessing AI, as well as the lack of transparency that I'd referred to earlier as well. Ensuring governance and rules to control AI is a critical issue as well, as businesses start to work with their regulators and their stakeholders to ensure that there is really robust and mature governance that determines the technology is servicing their needs and their customers' needs and their workforce needs equally well. And this also links through to the question of trust and stakeholder trust in the business. As we start seeing AI being applied to more consequential use cases, this will raise a range of moral and ethical dilemmas, whether it's self-driving cars, whether it's AI being applied to use cases such as determining credit or mortgage decisions, all the way through criminal justice and beyond. We're going to see a whole set of ethical dilemmas and moral dilemmas that businesses will have to really start addressing as well. I think also in a climate where trust in institutions is increasingly reaching an all-time low, it's vital that businesses are also starting to consider how the application of AI will impact the broader society that they serve as well. And 67% of chief executives cited this as one concern that's holding them back. And finally, the topic of regulation is something that's often been discussed in policy circles over the last 12 months. Is there a lack of adequate regulation to determine how this technology is harnessed in a way that gives businesses trust and a transparent outcome? And also in the case of the more advanced AIs, if it's leading to an optimal outcome, but it's not able to discern how it's reached it, this doesn't quite work in a regulated setting as well. Moving on to the next slide, one of the things that we are looking to do to enable businesses to accelerate their innovation, to build trust into the technology, to mitigate these risks I've outlined already, and avoid some of these unintended consequences taking hold, is looking at what we call the responsible AI approach and the framework that goes with that. So the headlines on this really are, it's absolutely critical now that businesses have an AI strategy, and the AI strategy is hardwired into their overarching corporate strategy. There has to be a mature approach to weighing up the huge number of business opportunities and use cases now that are becoming through on a weekly basis. It considers the regulatory impact. For example, within a couple of months' time, we'll see the launch of the General Data Protection Regulation from the EU. So how do businesses consider their AI endeavors alongside some of these new regulations? It's also very interesting, and I touched upon this before, about businesses thinking about this new category of professional coming through. And people that can work with the technologists, work with the people that operate within the regulatory field, but people that can also look at the human resource issue here. You can build the greatest AI tool in the world, but if your workforce isn't engaging with this, then clearly this can be rapidly redundant as well. So people that can look at the organizational change sphere, and also look at the communication here. How are you communicating why you're doing it with your staff? Be able to explain to your customers the technology you're using, how their data is being harnessed to feed the algorithms that are trained to solve some of their problems as well. Also in a world where we're seeing rapid innovation, a huge amount of investment funding going into the field, in a marketplace where just in the UK alone, we're seeing as many as a startup hitting the UK market every 5 days currently. Organizations and enterprises now are awash with a number of different opportunities to apply AI, and how they work with the vendors in a way that protects them, with organizations that may or may not have the enterprise maturity to consider some of the risks and controls is a critical importance here. And then looking through the new way we now need to think about this. This is very different from buying an off-the-shelf payroll system, which has mature governance and it has mature rules that determine how you implement the technology. If you've got a piece of technology that's constantly learning, it's growing its corpus of knowledge, it's starting to iterate, and then increasingly in the years to come, making autonomous decisions about your workforce data and about your customer data, this new chapter of risk will start coming through ever more evidently. So how do you build in trust into the technology? How do you monitor? How do you inspect? And how do you give confidence that the outcomes that it's leading to are able to be transparent all the way through the cycle? And I'll be very happy to share details on our responsible AI proposition after the presentation. Moving on to explainable AI, and I touched upon this during the earlier slide here. Now, as we start to move into this regulated field here, the need for transparency of how the AI is making decisions, explainability to understanding reasoning behind each decision, and provability, the mathematical certainty behind decisions, is going to be absolutely critical. It's not the case that AI is necessarily going to be spinning out of control during the course of 2018. It's nowhere near smart enough right now. But AI that acts inexplicably and therefore makes leaders and consumers wary of using it is a real risk. Pressure will grow to open up black boxes and make AI explainable, but that involves trade-offs in cost and performance. So it's really important now that enterprises need frameworks to assess business performance, regulatory and reputational concerns as they decide the right level of AI explainability. So many of the questions we're starting to look at with businesses, it starts really from the highest level. How vulnerable is your business model to AI disruption? How soon will this change arrive? Could it even be the case that it's not yet impacting your business? You've got bigger fish to fry with other fields of technology. Are there any game-changing openings happening within your market? And if so, how can you take advantage of this? And I hope the various presentations today are going to give you some ideas here. There's a number of raw ingredients, though, that businesses will need to make the most of this opportunity with AI. You've got to ask yourself, do you have the right talent? Do you have the right data? And do you have the right technology to help you understand and execute on this myriad of AI opportunities? And finally, How do you build trust and transparency into your AI platforms and applications so that you can innovate in a responsible way and see real business benefits? In summary, the size of the prize that AI promises could lead to transformative benefits for all parts of business, society, and our planet at large. If we can work together in a way that allows us to build trust into the technology, to mitigate the risks of these unintended consequences, and plans for the impact, we can look to responsibly accelerate the adoption of this technology to solve some of the grandest challenges. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Rob. We will now take a short networking break, giving you the opportunity to visit our virtual exhibit hall and live chat rooms. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our partner booths to download free white papers and reports, which you can take home in your swag bag. Our next presentation will commence here in the auditorium at 1 p.m. GMT, when Tom Ollerton, Innovation Director at We Are Social, joins us to share how brands can harness AI for improved content and creative campaigns. Thank you.